So I think people know Jordan Peterson well. I don't have to give a introduction to him. He's the kind of psychologist that was ousted by the mainstream media, the establishment. He's kind of this controversial psychiatrics guy. He has a podcast show on the Daily Wire. He's done interviews. He has talked to many individuals like Tamara Leach about the Freedom Convoy and so on. And Jordan Peterson, who's lived in Toronto for most of his life. He's been a Toronto psychologist. He's got his credentials removed. They kicked him out of the circles of psychology because of his controversial comments, because he, may have said some things that are against the grain of the establishment. So now the Toronto Star is pointing out that it has become uncomfortable for me, Jordan Peterson, the controversial psychologist, moves from Toronto to the United States. So the article says Jordan Peterson is leaving Toronto. Peterson, appearing on his daughter Michaela's podcast in an episode posted December 6th, officially announced his move to a sunnier home in the United States, where there are decided advantages over living in Toronto. A psychologist who rose to prominence rallying against preferred pronoun use at the University of Toronto, Peterson has made a popular talking head among conservative and right-wing media in recent years. The issue with the College of Psychologists of Ontario is very annoying, to say the least, Peterson said, citing reasons why he decided to leave Toronto, and the new legislation that the federal Liberals are attempting to push through, Bill C-63, Online Harms Act. We'd all be living in a totalitarian hellhole if it passes. The tax situation is out of hand. The government in Canada at the federal level is incompetent beyond belief, and it's become uncomfortable for me in my neighborhood in Toronto. Peterson spat with the College of Psychologists of Ontario stems from complaints over social media posts about, among other things, a not beautiful plus-size model. The college ordered Peterson to undergo a coaching program on professionalism in public statements. Jeez. In August, 3 Superior Court judges, comprising a panel of divisional courts, ruled it was reasonable for the CPO to order Peterson to take a course in professionalism in communications over a comment they said about a certain model. The governing body for psychologists made the order after receiving numerous complaints over Peterson's commentary, which has been criticized for attacking feminism and racial diversity. Peterson has repeatedly taken aim at the Online Harms Act, or Bill C-63, which has sparked debate over how Ottawa should best strike the balance between protecting its citizens and their rights to express themselves freely. So, here's what I'll say about Jordan Peterson, because I don't really pay attention to this guy. I really just don't have the time to deal with his antics. I don't have the time to deal with the controversial claims. He's definitely one of those people that just focus so much attention on the woke identity. Some things I agree with, like obviously I agree is comments about the Online Harms Act and this bill that's being purposely implemented for further censorship. I agree with that's just absolutely crazy that we're doing it here in Canada. It's going to diminish our charters and rights and freedoms of Canadians. I agree with them on that. But there's also a lot of things that I take note of Peterson. And the fact that he's such this, going after wokeism, going after this, kind of safe space around colleges. He's kind of like a thought-provoking Ben Shapiro in a way, where he goes around college campuses, he gives lectures about, freedom of speech and whatnot, which, again, I agree with that. But at the same time, Jordan Peterson is also one of those figures, just like most people at Daily Wire, who promotes censorship, who promotes attacking free speech when it comes to criticizing, say, the genocide in Gaza, or anything to do with Israel, or questioning October 7th. So he's one of those people that he's like this, almost like a professional grifter, where he'll say the right things when it comes to just the crazy wokeness culture, here in Canada in college institutions. But at the same time, he is also a member, a victim, a persona in that woke culture, because he is also being that woke when it comes to talking about Israel and Gaza, when it comes to Middle Eastern policies. He's the one that's trying to shutter out conversation of that. He's the one that's attacking college campus protests, which is a violation of free speech, which, if he really stands for that, why are you not partaking and respecting that these college protesters, these students, and some, Free Palestine movement activists are exercising their right, are exercising their ability to protest freely and openly and peacefully about Middle Eastern policies, considering the fact that we're paying for them. So there are 7 categories of harm. There's 7 categories of harm are laid out in the bill. 3 deal with protecting children from exploitive or harmful content. Another category covers the sharing of intimate images without consent, and the remaining categories include content that promotes hatred, conduct that insinuates violence, and conduct that incites violent extremism or terrorism. So, again, this bill, this is what is so daunting and so diabolical about these censorship bills, is they claim it as being this kind of helpful tool for kids, how we don't want kids to look at, intimate images, pornographic content, hurtful, violent images. That's fine. That's fine. You don't want to show that to your kids. But why do we have to have a federal level response and a blanketed measure that not only does that, but also goes to the extreme of demonizing own Canadians and calling them extremists and terrorists, which they've done in the past, to violate their rights, to violate their abilities of free speech. So that's why this law is dangerous. That's why this bill, which I think is at its second hearing now, it's already halfway through, is so dangerous to Canadians. Even though they call it the Online Harms Act. It's supposed to protect you from harm, which is ridiculous. The bill was eventually split into 2 to ensure the child safety guidelines would be passed into law. Petersen did not specifically where in the United States he would move to, but mentioned that his near daughter was in Arizona. Petersen did not say exactly where he lived in Toronto, but a Toronto Life profile from 2021 noted that he had the modest semi in Seton Village. On his podcast episode, he said he lived in a kind of champagne socialist neighborhood and was less popular in my own neighborhood than I am anywhere else in the world, literally. He called the Toronto District School Board probably the most woke institution in North America, which is really saying something, over its handling of the COVID pandemic, and said Toronto is run by the wife, Olivia Chow, of the last leader of the Socialist Party in Canada, that Jack Layton of the NDP. And so the goal in Toronto was to turn it into a Portland or San Francisco, and that's what's happening. He said he moved once. He and his son, whom he lived close to, became uncomfortable living in Toronto. I didn't ever expect it to be something that happened to Canada, but under Justin Trudeau and the woke mob, that's definitely something that's happened, Petersen said. It's been almost a decade since Petersen rocketed to national consciousness and controversy by arguing that being forced to use pronouns such as Z and Zer was a violation of free speech while lecturing at the University of Toronto. So, again, he's a bit wonky in the fact that, yeah, I can understand and relate to what he's saying here and being shunned out for not using the right pronouns, but at the same time, Jordan Petersen also shuns down his own critics when it comes to Israel and Gaza, when it comes to Middle Eastern policies, when it comes to certain things that he has been criticized of. So he's kind of been this grifter that goes back and forth. So I don't give him the, holy grail kind of respect that so many other people do, but I also respect in the fact that he is he is a person that was shunned out of society because he had different think than the rest of the crowd. And I don't think that was right. He emerged as part of a political intellect, part internet celebrity, and a fighter against perceived political correctness. He was an author of the best-selling book 12 Rules of Life: Antidote to Chaos, which urged readers to seize responsibility for their own lives, sparking speaking tours, lucrating crowd funds, and official merchandise, and launched him into global fame. Petersen also part ways with the University of Toronto, writing in the National Post in 2022 that he resigned from the full-time tenure position. There were a few reasons, he wrote. Chief among them was the appalling ideology currently demolishing the universities and downstream the general culture. So, there you go, folks. Jordan Petersen, the kind of this kind of person, this persona, who is sometimes is correct on a lot of things, and I give him credit for the work he's done. I give him credit to stuff that he has done in his career, but at the same time, this is someone who you know for a fact, when there's an opportunity, when there's a business proposal, like his contract with the Daily Wire, and you ask him about Israel and Gaza and the Free Palestine movement and ceasefire and all that stuff, you know he's going to turn into that person that he's fighting against. He's going to become that woke person. He's going to become that person that wants to shun other people out of society. So, just showing this is kind of, just kind of showing the highlight of the fact that he was drove out of Canada because of kind of this woke identity culture, and the fact that it really is from the top down. It really comes from, top establishment, NGOs and government bodies and corporations that have just played into this. And a lot of it coming from BlackRock that we know of. Larry Fink was famous for saying that woke ideologue was coming from us so we can control companies and their destiny. That was kind of their whole point of it. So I feel bad that Petersen has to be driven out of the country. But at the same time, this is his choice. This is his life. If he wants to live in Arizona or wherever in the United States, so be it. Best of luck to him. Again, I'm not going to give him the halo treatment. I'm not going to claim him as the saint that we drove away. Because in the end, even himself, even a person like Jordan Petersen, may say the right things, but when push comes to shove, will become that character that he's trying to fight against. He will become that woke, stereotypical, crying, safe space Nancy boy, if you will, when it comes to certain critiques about him, or when it comes to Israel and Gaza, because he signed contracts with, like, the Daily Wire. So, but best of luck to him and his family.